What happens when you make a whole career for yourself by scaremongering about woke culture, but you don't know what woke means? Well, this happens.
Only 7% of Americans consider themselves very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, when we talk about traditional...
What does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. Woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, your time.
That makes me feel so much better about my most embarrassing on-screen moments. And she was right. It's had 10 million views, so it has indeed gone viral. And here we are talking about it a little bit more. Let's get the background here. So that was Bethany Mandel being interviewed by Brianna Joy Gray on The Rising. Now, Bethany Mandel is a conservative commentator and the author of this book, Stolen Youth: How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. Quite snappy. This is how the book is described on Amazon. The left is waging an all-out battle on the American family, particularly the youngest members. If they can make our children miserable, lead them to question every building block of society, and rebuild their entire concept of reality, then the left and their woke indoctrinators will consider that a victory. But we can't let them win. As concerned parents and American citizens, we have to understand what's truly going on before we can do something about it. Stolen Youth provides an urgent deep dive into issues surrounding the current woke indoctrination happening in politics, education, medicine, mental health, entertainment, and culture. These issues may seem subtle, insidious, and hard to make sense of, but armed with the information provided in this book, we now have a framework from which to fight. While we may simply be trying to parent our children well and create a healthy and happy home environment, this is no longer enough. We must now go on the offense to protect our kids, and this book sheds a bright light on the reason why. We can no longer afford to stay ignorant. Our children's lives and the survival of our families are at stake. Wow, heavy stuff. Mandel also edits the children's book series Heroes of Liberty. It's made up of biographies of right-wing cultural and political figures marketed to conservative families, and I imagine it's a very big moneymaker. The books in this series avoid mention of issues that could cause discomfort to conservative parents, such as LGBTQ identities or the out-of-wedlock birth of American founding father Alexander Hamilton. Sean, why is someone like Bethany Mandel, a right-wing conservative commentator who's made her career on talking about wokeness, finding it so hard to define what woke actually means?
Because woke is not, has never intended by the right to be a substantive concept. In fact, woke is more like an ellipsis, right? It is a deliberate vacuum into which anything can be projected. That is its function. It's kind of essentially a right-wing fascistic version of something like the zeitgeist, right? Is it something that it appeals to people's emotions and fears and anxieties, and into that anything can be projected about woke, whether that's LGBTQ rights, whether that's racial justice, whether that's feminism. Woke is like deliberately a hold-all for all of these things. So of course it can't be defined. It doesn't mean anything. When she went silent and was like, she's providing us with the real definition of woke. It is a stand-in for various right-wing anxieties that it plays on with the public. And I think it's worth saying that whilst it is like a funny viral moment, I am increasingly, as much as, we point out these things in the right, I think it's really important for those of us on the left and with progressive politics, not just to be like our sort of liberal counterparts, sort of lolling along, being like, well, this is stupid, because actually in many ways, The vapidity is the point. And we're not going to win by just pointing out the fact that they can't define the word woke. The word woke appeals to emotions. It appeals to something that is not necessarily easily articulated. And I actually have always believed that what we need to do rather than debunking is to be able to appeal to people's emotions in the same way, but with the actual substance of the fact that we're not creating a ton of scapegoats. In fact, what people's fears and anxieties are, the left has to come up with answers that appeal to people's emotions. And that can sometimes be a little bit of a controversial suggestion, but I do think it's something that we don't necessarily always consider in our strategies. And we're very quick to debunk and point out inconsistencies. I was thinking of some of the viral clips I've also seen in recent weeks about the drag bans in the US and pointing out the contradiction that Republicans want to ban drag, but then don't support gun control and in fact want the proliferation of guns. And yes, that's very true, but they don't care about the contradictions. They don't care. And we're not going to win by pointing out the fact that there's contradictions. So I think with woke, we have to acknowledge that its power lies in the fact that it taps into fear and anxiety, and we need to tap into less destructive emotions.